The 10,000-hour rule has trained us to believe that mastery is a war of attrition. You pick a skill, put your head down, and push against the resistance until the clock says you're an expert. But look closely at any field, and you see anomalies. You find people who spend 5 years practicing a skill and barely improve, while someone else reaches a professional tier in 6 months. The fatal flaw in most practice routines is the way we measure progress. We tend to expect immediate speed and fluency, assuming that if we aren't getting faster, we aren't improving. And this simple misunderstanding causes most learners to quit exactly when they are making their first real gains. Time itself does not create skill. Those 10,000 hours are actually just a container for a highly specific set of neurological events. If you understand the biological mechanics of learning, you don't have to wait for those events to happen randomly over years of practice. You can isolate them and trigger them on demand. The first trigger involves organizing your practice around 3 distinct components: accuracy, consistency, and fluency. These do not develop at the same rate, and treating them as separate milestones allows you to track progress even when you feel slow. This diagram outlines the transition from 0 to mastery. In stage 1, your brain targets basic accuracy. It is gathering data on your unique habits and biases. Every mistake made during this phase provides the self-awareness required to refine your internal process. Mastery then moves to stage 2, consistency. At this point, you stop measuring individual attempts and start tracking your success rate across a large sample size. You are training the brain to maintain accuracy across changing contexts and environments. In stage 3, the cognitive effort starts to drop. As your neural connections reinforce, the mechanics of the skill begin to feel like a habit, freeing up your focus to handle more complex variables. Only after accuracy, consistency, and low-effort habits are locked in does stage 4, speed, emerge. Fluency is a natural byproduct of the previous stages, not a goal you can force. Forcing speed prematurely often degrades your accuracy and introduces new errors. Paradoxically, focusing on the slower metrics of accuracy and consistency is the most direct path to high-speed fluency. The second trigger is what researchers call early interleaving. Beginners often create a highly sterile, repetitive environment to practice in, but a static environment causes your cognitive development to stall. This blueprint of a basketball court illustrates why repetition is a trap. Research shows long-term accuracy improves faster when players constantly vary their shooting positions rather than standing in one spot. The brain learns more from adapting to new angles than it does from repeating the same motion. When you slightly change the environment, you force your brain to find the precise edges of the skill. It begins to understand the conditionality of what you're learning, how to succeed when the variables shift. This horizontal axis tracks a lateral challenge. This involves applying your current skill level to a completely different context, like using a coding technique you've mastered for one project on a totally different type of software. Conversely, a vertical challenge keeps the context the same but increases the difficulty. You tackle a more complex problem using the same foundational tools. By intentionally destabilizing your practice environment early on, you prevent your brain from forming fragile habits, building highly adaptable neural pathways instead. But building those pathways requires avoiding a biological trap. The human brain is hardwired to repeat tasks it has already mastered, because success triggers a satisfying release of positive neurochemicals. To keep growing, you have to use the third trigger, gap seeking. This map shows the zone of proximal development. The inner circle is what you've mastered, while the outer ring is material your brain isn't ready to process yet. Stay in the inner circle, you are just reinforcing comfort. Jump to the outer edge, the skill is too far removed from your current habits to stick. Gap seeking is the active process of finding the exact boundary where your confidence drops. By practicing right on this edge of uncertainty, you force the inner circle of mastery to expand. This mentality reframes failure as a required mechanic. Rapid learners look for areas of uncertainty and move toward them, using the friction of the proximal zone to drive continuous progress. Most people take a passive approach to skill acquisition. They wait for endless hours of repetition to eventually grant them fluency. The accelerated learner treats practice as an engineering problem. By pacing your metrics, interleaving your environment, and aggressively seeking the proximal zone, you can reach mastery in a fraction of the time. These strategies pack those 10,000 hours of neurological development into a much tighter, more efficient timeline. Taking control of these mechanics allows you to stop being a passenger in your own education. You aren't just saving time, you are upgrading the very framework your brain uses to absorb the world.